The gavel hovered mid-air. Judge Malcolm Reese's arm stiffened, his knuckles white against the polished wood handle. For 30 years, his courtroom had been his kingdom, a place where his word was law, where no one dared challenge the weight of his voice. But now, standing before him was the one man who could tear that throne to pieces. Governor Marcus Ellis. The governor's presence filled the room like a storm front rolling in. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His words sliced through the stale air, each one sharp as a blade. That man you just sentenced, his voice was calm, even measured, is my brother. The silence that followed wasn't silence at all. It was pressure, thick, suffocating, alive. It crushed the whispers in throats, froze the scratch of pens, turned cameras into blinking, mechanical eyes. Reporters gaped. The defense attorney's pen slipped from his fingers, clattering against the floor. One of the jurors, a middle-aged woman in a navy blazer, pressed a trembling hand to her chest. Even the bailiffs, men built like granite, stood as if the ground beneath them had started to shift. Devonte Ellis didn't move. He stood shackled at the waist, wrists cuffed in heavy steel, his orange jumpsuit stark against his deep brown skin. His face was unreadable, carved from stone. If the word struck him, he didn't show it. No relief. No fear. Just eyes, dark, steady, burning with something no one in the room could name. Judge Reese's lips parted, but no sound came. His throat had gone dry. He searched for the gavel, an anchor in the chaos, but his grip faltered. For the first time in decades, the king of courtroom 4C felt the weight of a sword dangling above his head. Governor Ellis, his voice cracked like old glass. I wasn't aware. You weren't supposed to be, Marcus said, and there was something in the way he said it, a quiet, dangerous calm that made the judge's skin prickle. The cameras fired like artillery. Click. 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 Every burst of light seared this moment into history. Headlines were already writing themselves. Careers were ending in real time. The judge glanced at Deputy Holt by the door. The man's jaw was tight, his pale blue eyes narrowed like the barrel of a gun. Ramirez stood beside him, stiff and silent, eyes flicking toward Devonte, then to the governor, then down to the scuffed tiles underfoot. Finally, Reese spoke. 2 words. Court, adjourned. The gavel hit the block. Hard. The sound cracked through the air like a gunshot. But it didn't matter. The secret was out. And secrets, once free, don't go back in the cage. Outside, the courthouse erupted. The chants that had started the morning, "Free Devonte. Free Devonte," morphed into something bigger, louder, hungrier. Brother of the governor. Corruption. Ellis family exposed. The protest had tripled in size. Signs waved like a storm-tossed sea. The press surged forward, microphones stabbing the air like spears. Governor Ellis. Did you know your brother was on trial? Are you intervening in the courts? Is this political? The governor didn't answer. He didn't break stride. Cameras popped in rapid bursts, catching the rigid set of his jaw, the storm in his eyes. He reached the black SUV, slid inside, and the door slammed shut. Inside the car, the chaos faded to a muffled hum. For 3 beats, there was only silence. Then Marcus spoke. His voice was low, controlled, but it carried a weight that made his aide in the passenger seat flinch. How the hell did this happen? No one answered. Not the aide. Not the driver. Not the security detail tucked in the front seat. Because they all knew the truth, this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't random. This was war. Back in courtroom 4C, Judge Reese sat slumped on the bench. The wood-paneled walls pressed in, thick with the scent of old varnish and sweat. The gallery was empty now, reporters rushing to feed the beast of breaking news, leaving only silence and a single camera light blinking in the corner. The judge's hand shook as he reached for the black phone beneath the bench. A direct line. One he'd sworn he'd never use again. It rang once. Twice. Then a click. A voice answered, smooth and cold. "You should not be calling this number." Reese swallowed hard. His throat burned. "We've got a problem," he whispered. There was a pause, a long, heavy pause that crawled under his skin. Then the voice said two words, calm as death, "No loose ends." The line went dead. Reese sat there, staring at the receiver, his heart pounding so loud it filled the room. His eyes drifted to the door where Devante had stood minutes ago, then to the gavel still trembling on the block. For the first time in years, the judge felt afraid. By nightfall, the story was everywhere. CNN. Fox. TikTok. The headlines screamed, "Governor's brother wrongfully sentenced, corruption in courtroom 4C. Racist judge exposed." The internet was a wildfire. Hashtags trended worldwide, #FreeDevante, #EllisBrothers, #CorruptionGate. The governor canceled every public event. Reporters swarmed the gates of the Ellis mansion, their voices rising over the hum of news helicopters circling above. But Marcus Ellis stayed locked inside, pacing the length of his private study like a man standing on the edge of a cliff he didn't see coming. At 2:57 a.m., the phone rang. He snatched it up on the first ring. Governor Ellis. The voice on the other end was soft. Smooth. Too calm. "You have no idea what you just stepped into." "Who is this?" Marcus demanded. Click. The line went dead. The governor stood frozen, the receiver pressed to his ear, his pulse pounding like war drums. That wasn't a threat. That was a warning. 3 hours later, he walked into his study. The house was still, dark, heavy with the hush of secrets. On his desk sat a single envelope. No name. No return address. Just a black wax seal. He tore it open. Inside, photographs. Dozens of them. Devante at the gas station. Devante in cuffs. Devante in the courtroom. All time-stamped, all perfect. Whoever took these didn't work for the local sheriff, they worked for something bigger. At the bottom of the stack, a single line scrawled in thick black ink, "This was never about him." Marcus's breath caught. His grip tightened until the edges of the photos bit into his skin. If it wasn't about Devante, then who the hell was it about? Across town, in a room without windows, a man named Alan Graves slid a microchip into a steel case. His hands shook. His eyes flicked to the locked door. He knew what was on that chip. He knew what would happen if it got out. He picked up his phone, typed a single message, "It's time." The sun hadn't yet risen over Austin when the governor's mansion lit up like a crime scene. Black SUVs idled at the gates. State troopers flanked the driveway, radios crackling with clipped voices. Inside, the air smelled of burnt coffee and panic. Governor Marcus Ellis stood at the head of the long mahogany table in the war room. His tie was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled, but his presence still commanded the room. Around him sat his inner circle, advisors, security chiefs, the attorney general. Faces pale. Eyes darting. On the wall, 3 television screens blared the same headline, "Brother of Governor Sentenced, Corruption Alleged." Marcus stabbed a finger at the screens. "Turn that off," he said, voice low, measured. No one moved fast enough. "I said turn it off." The aide nearest the remote fumbled to kill the feed. The room fell into silence, thick and hot. "Somebody explain to me," Marcus said, each word a bullet, "how my brother gets railroaded through a kangaroo court, and I'm the last damn person to know." The attorney general cleared his throat. "Governor, with respect, your brother never disclosed." "Don't," Marcus snapped. His eyes, dark and hard as obsidian, pinned the man to his seat. "Don't feed me protocol." Don't talk to me about disclosures. Someone put Devante in that courtroom. Someone made sure there was no bail, no press, no oversight. And whoever it was didn't just make a mistake. They made a move. A murmur rippled down the table. No one met his eyes. Marcus leaned in, palms flat on the polished wood. I want names, he said. Every name tied to that arrest. Every deputy. Every clerk. Every damn judge. His voice dropped, soft as a blade sliding from a sheath. And I want them yesterday. The room sat frozen. They all knew Marcus Ellis wasn't just a governor. He was a strategist. A warhorse. A man who'd built his career on never losing. But this was personal. And personal was dangerous. 5 miles away, in a room without windows, Alan Graves pulled the hood of his sweatshirt low and watched the news roll across an old television screen. His gaunt face glowed blue in the flicker of the feed. The headline screamed what he already knew, the governor's brother. The sentence. The outrage. Alan's hand hovered over the microchip on the table. The chip looked harmless, a sliver of black no bigger than a fingernail. But what it held could incinerate careers, topple governments, and erase men like Alan Graves off the face of the earth. He slid it into a steel case, latched the lock with a click that echoed too loud in the tiny room. His heart thudded like fists on a door. His burner phone buzzed once. A single text lit the cracked screen, package moves at dawn. No mistakes. Alan typed 2 words in reply, understood. But his hands shook as he set the phone down. Because the truth? There were already mistakes. And one of them had a name, Devante Ellis. Back at the mansion, Marcus Ellis stared at the photographs spread across his desk like a crime board. Devante at the gas station. Devante on the sidewalk. Devante on his knees, hands cuffed behind his back. Each image precise. Surgical. And at the bottom, that line again, this was never about him. Marcus gripped the edge of the desk until his fingers ached. His mind worked like a machine, grinding through possibilities. If this wasn't about Devante, then it was about him. Or worse, it was about what he stood for. A knock at the door broke his thoughts. His chief of staff slipped in, face tight. Governor, we've got a problem. Marcus almost laughed, harsh, bitter. Just one. Sir, she said, voice low, Judge Reese called an emergency meeting. Behind closed doors. No record. He left the courthouse at 2 a.m., and we can't trace where he went after. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Find him. We're trying. But there's more. She hesitated. In a shuttered warehouse on the edge of town, Alan Graves zipped his duffel bag shut and slung it over his shoulder. He moved fast, eyes darting to every shadow, every sound. He didn't notice the camera in the rafters, its lens whirring softly as it tracked his every move. He reached the door, yanked it open, and froze. 2 figures waited in the alley. Both in black. Both masked. One spoke, voice muffled but sharp. You weren't supposed to make contact, Graves. Alan's throat tightened. Plans changed. The second figure stepped forward. You have the package? Alan hesitated. I want assurances. The first figure tilted his head. Assurances are for people who follow orders. Then the gloved hand reached for Alan's bag. Alan jerked it back, his voice cracking with fear. You don't understand, if this gets buried, everything we did, everything, was for nothing. Back at the mansion, Marcus Ellis stood at the window, watching dawn bleed across the horizon like a wound. His reflection stared back, hard, lined, a man who'd spent his life clawing for control. And for the first time, he felt it slipping. His phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. One message. He's moving the package. You have 6 hours. Marcus stared at the screen, his jaw tightening. He didn't know who sent it. He didn't know where Graves was going. But he knew one thing, whatever was on that chip, it was the key to all of this. And if he didn't get it first, Devante's sentence would be the least of his problems. Across town, Alan Graves climbed into the back seat of a black sedan. The driver didn't speak. Just pulled into traffic, merging with the hum of early morning commuters. Alan clutched the steel case tight against his chest, his pulse pounding like a drum. He didn't see the second car slip in behind them. Or the third one 2 blocks back. Who's really behind? Should Jason walk away, or fight back? Comment below. Follow for part 3 to uncover the truth.